just because I played a little bit too much Otekra. Can't blame them.
All right, I thought I'd come back with a little Radiohead Winter Wonderland for our young listeners out there. Bob Parks joins us again, who is a senior video producer for MRC TV, also a purveyor of black-and-right.com. And we were talking while we were off the air there, and we're going to make a little transition here. I was going to talk about work, welfare to work, but that has to do with young people, too. A lot of young people now, they're getting out of college. They got these huge college loans. They can't pay them back. They've moved back in with their parents, and the parents are stuck with these kids. And a lot of times, if you're like me, well, of course, I'm not stuck with my kids, but you also have your parents. Baby boomers now have parents moving back in with them, and they're kind of sandwiched in there. And it's really a tough time for the middle class and baby boomers. But one problem that, going back to this thing that happened in Connecticut last Friday, and you were talking about this earlier, while we're on the break, is that it's strange that all of these things are committed by males and young males, and parenting is probably one of the big problems here. I mean, we've been talking about mental illness being a problem, but also parenting. Kids, they don't have any direction anymore, do they?
Well, it's not, I think, just a question of them not having any direction, but as I said to you off air, we have been basically led and instructed over the last few decades by a bunch of scraggly-haired, no-children liberals who are telling us all how to raise our kids. We can't shout at them. We cannot spank them. We have to use timeouts. We have to send them into the naughty corner. And what's happened? We've had kids who nobody loses, everybody wins, and when they get older and bad times come their way as far as them not being able to find the job that they feel that they're qualified for, they're sitting around all day playing violent video games and that kind of thing, that maybe at some point they just snap. I was over at CNN yesterday, and I was watching while I was in the green room, and Fareed Zakaria was on. He was saying that yes, in America we've got all this gun violence, and we've got we've got all these violent video games, but you can't blame it on the violent video games and the movies because, for example, in Japan, they have violent video games and they have violent movies as well. But, I wanted to, shout the TV and say, well, Fareed, what is the difference? In Japan, they discipline their kids. If a kid does something bad, it reflects badly on the family and there's shame. There is no shame anymore. When you go to an average high school and you can't search a kid's locker because it's their property. Well, you know something? Remember when we were kids?
Oh yeah.
Okay, if there was something in your locker, kid, the school went in because it was what was called school property. And if the teacher called your parent to say, Tony was bad at school today, you need to come in. Guess what, Tony? You knew you were in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays, the parent will come in and get in the teacher's face in front of that kid and say, my child wouldn't do that. You must, and challenge the teacher. And so that's why I think one of the big problems in this country, especially when you look at the last, few years, the rash of shootings going back to Columbine, the mass shootings, the vast majority of them are done by young people, all males for the most part at this point, but, young males between the ages of 18 and 25.
Oh yeah, but getting back to your point about discipline, I remember when I was in high school. Well, I spent my senior year in the principal's office because I was kind of like the class clown, not because I did anything really bad. I was just kind of a joker, but I had to spend my senior year in the principal's office. But if they ever called my house and they told my mom that I had done something wrong, believe me, then in those days, the principal, you got paddled at school.
Yep.
And believe me, when I got home, my dad had what was called a razor strap. I don't know if you ever remember the old barber's office, barber shops where they had the razor strap, where they sharpen the razor on that leather strap. And believe me, it didn't take too many times with the razor strap because it made a lot of noise. It made more noise than it did hurt, but it still... it instilled in me the idea that, I don't think I want to do that. Maybe that's not the right thing to do. And certainly with discipline, you do have better behavior.
And Hollywood is always quick when something like this happens to say, well, it has nothing to do with the violence. Well, look at the Dark Knight, the new Batman movie. And compare that to the Batman that we watched on TV. I believe it was on Wednesday nights at 7 or 8 o'clock on ABC. Nobody died.
Yep.
If you think about it, in the old Batman TV show, they got beat up, but there was no blood. Nobody died. But people die in mass quantities, and I'm not trying to come off like a prude, because I love a good R-rated movie like anybody else. But we didn't have back in the day what we now refer to as gore porn, with movies like Saw and Scream that are aimed directly at young people, even though they're not supposed to be able to go to see it in the theater. They can see it online. They can see it on a DVD. And they have more access to this kind of stuff than we did. And so I think, if you're going to start looking directly and making a crusade about going after guns, I think we also need to go and have a good discussion, if we're in the mood for discussions, and talk about how we have lost the ability to be parents and raise our kids so they know right from wrong, and they don't do things that we in our generation would never dream of doing, and we never did.
You are so right. Unfortunately, there's a thing called the ACLU out there that's going to prevent that from happening. And of course, these liberal politicians, they're not going to have any of this parents actually being able to discipline their children. I fear that we're on the road to ruin if we don't change in this country. The moral decay has caused the economic decay, and it's caused also the kind of thing that we saw happen last Friday, unfortunately. Bob, I hate it. We're running out of time, man, but it's always fun having you on, and it's always very enlightening as well. Look forward to having you, if not before Christmas, maybe before the New Year. So please come back soon, okay?
The Mayan holiday, the Mayan calendar ends Friday. The end of the world is Friday, so you might want to get me on before then.
Oh,
okay.
All right, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Bob Parks, he's a senior senior video producer, not vice producer. He doesn't produce the Vice for MRC TV. He's a video producer, and also purveyor of black-and-right.com. We'll be back right after Fox News. Stick around. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
You're listening to Talk Radio 1380